Welcome to our eLabFTW release video. In this video, we will show you the newest features introduced in version 5.3. Let's get started. We are now on the eLabFTW dashboard. The most visible changes in this version are right here in the navigation bar at the top of the page. Let's click on the Experiments tab to explore what's new there. The Experiments tab has been redesigned, and when we click on it, a drop-down menu unfolds with quick access to different pages. The first thing to notice is the new quick search box, which makes it easy to find entries without leaving the menu. From here, we can also choose to view all experiments, experiments created by members of our team, or only our own experiments. The drop-down menu also lets us filter by category, so we can directly see experiments grouped by their respective categories. At the bottom, we find direct access to the submenus related to experiments, which are templates, categories, and status. This new structure makes navigation in eLabFTW clearer and more consistent. For instance, resources have the same setup, as we will see in the next section. Let's now take a closer look at resource entries. A major change in this release is how resources are organized. Just like with experiments, when we click on the Resources tab, a drop-down menu unfolds. At the top, we can see the new Quick Search input, so let's type in a keyword to quickly find a resource entry. Below that, we can choose to display all resources, resources created by members of our team, or only our own resource entries. We can also filter resources by category. Here we can see how the entries are grouped when selecting a category. As with the experiment entries, the drop-down menu provides access to the following submenus for resources: templates, categories, and status. Next, we will demonstrate an important improvement. In previous versions of eLabFTW, the resource categories were tied to a single template. This meant that each category could have only one template, which was limiting for some users. With version 5.3, this has been completely redesigned. Resources now have proper categories, and they also have templates, just like experiments. For example, let's create a category called microscopes, and then add two templates, one for confocal microscopes and another for stereo microscopes. Now, when creating a new resource entry, users can either directly select one of the available templates, such as the confocal or stereo microscope templates, or create a new entry by choosing a category. This change not only makes resource entries more powerful, but also aligns them with how experiment entries are structured. The result is a more consistent experience across the platform, which should make resource management clearer and easier for users. In previous versions of eLabFTW, there were a number of actions that only admins were able to perform. These included creating and editing categories and status values for experiments and resources. However, this could be an issue if an admin was not immediately available to create a new category or status option. In version 5.3, this limitation has been lifted. Now, regular users can create and edit categories and status options directly from dedicated pages in the menu. This increases the flexibility of the user workflow, since teams no longer need to wait for an admin to perform these changes. Of course, admins still remain in control. In the admin panel, they can revert to the old behavior and restrict these actions to admins only. Teams can choose the option that works best for them. Let's now take a look at the scheduler, which has undergone important improvements in this release. To make a booking, users can now simply click on the desired time slot in the calendar. This action will open a booking window, which prompts the user to choose the resource they want to reserve. Another new feature is the ability to book multiple resources at once for a given time window. Let's try it here. We can select two bookable resources and add them to the same booking slot in the scheduler. This is particularly useful for experiments that require access to several different instruments simultaneously. Filtering has also been enhanced. We can now filter by multiple resources at the same time, even if they belong to different categories. This makes it much easier to get a clear overview of availability across the lab. Let's now open an experiment entry to see what has changed in version 5.3. The biggest improvement is that the page layout has been reorganized for clarity. The main text field is now placed much higher on the page, so users can start focusing on the scientific content of the entry right away. The administrative fields that were previously displayed above the main text have been moved further down the page. Just below the spreadsheet editor, which is currently being reworked and will be covered in a future video, we find the Links section, which groups together all connections to experiments, resources, or compounds. Underneath the Links section is the Inventory section, where storage information is shown in a more compact way than in previous versions of the software. And finally, at the very bottom of the entry, we find the Permissions section, where we can manage who has read and write access for that entry. Another new feature in version 5.3 is the option to override exclusive edit mode. Previously, if an entry was left open in edit mode by a user, it could remain locked for others until the exclusive edit mode lock expired. Now, users can manually override the lock if needed, which allows editing of an entry without waiting for the lock to expire. This gives users more control while still protecting against accidental simultaneous editing. These changes streamline the layout of the experiment entries in eLabFTW so that users can focus first on content while still being able to easily access administrative information. Now, let's take a look at a couple of small but helpful improvements in version 5.3. First, the delivery of notifications has been improved. Error messages and system alerts now stay on the screen until they are closed manually by the user. This makes it much easier for users to note down the exact text of a notification when reporting an issue. Next, the login system has been improved. The application now remembers the last identity provider used when logging in. It also remembers the most recent team used when signing on. This reduces friction during login and lets users get to work faster without having to select the same options repeatedly. Both of these features improve the user experience, thereby making everyday use of eLabFTW smoother and more efficient. Next, let's discuss improvements to the user management system in version 5.3. First, the user table for both sysadmins and admins has been upgraded. Specifically, resizable columns allow users to more easily view the information that they need. Additionally, a better search interface makes it faster to find a specific user. For each user, there is now a dedicated modal window showing all parameters that can be edited. Let's double-click on a user row to open the modal window. Here, we can edit basic user details, manage team membership, and modify permissions directly. Sysadmins can also control whether a user can manage their own user-team relationship, giving more flexibility. Another key change in version 5.3 is the team-specific archival status. Previously, archiving a user affected their account globally across all teams. Now, a user can be archived in one team while remaining active in another, which is especially useful for multi-team setups. These changes make user management faster, more intuitive, and more flexible, especially for larger teams. The modal window also allows quick access to permissions, teams, and other settings without leaving the main user table. Overall, these improvements streamline the workflow and reduce administrative friction when managing users. We have reached the end of our tour of the new features in eLabFTW version 5.3. Here is a summary of the most important new features. If you want to review this list, you can pause the video now. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us or leave a comment. See you next time.